Hi everyone, this is my neighbor for our presentation, and my name is Kaitlynd Firek, and I'm also doing this in the phone right now, so sorry if you hear any background music. So my article is called How California Teachers Are Making Bilingual Education Work Online. So here is my article here. Scroll to the top. Okay. So it's all about different California bilingual teachers. Some of them teach dual language. They teach all different languages as well. And it's all about their certain problems and what they're doing to combat that. So I went through the article and picked out 4 specific problems that the teachers have been having and what they have done to combat that in this presentation. So go back to this. So the 4 main problems that I found are that there's no interaction and that students learn best with classmate interaction when they're learning a new language. The parents are discouraged. So since the students are learning at home, the parents can see their learning process and they're now noticing that their students are struggling learning the new language. It's difficult to teach advanced vocabulary with the normal methods that teachers usually use, so those normal methods are no longer applicable to the e-learning. And then there's more embarrassment. So many students are now getting embarrassed using their new language in the online format versus if they were just like in the normal classroom format. So the first problem, just a little bit deeper into it with no interaction, there's a quote from the article that says, normally in our schools we would have students constantly turning to each other and chatting with each other, and they would be practicing specific language that they're learning and talking about. The text that they are reading and writing, says the FAB and Vice Principal of Fresno's Unified Wawona K-8 School, which teaches elementary age children Spanish and English. What makes it especially difficult in this context is you can't do that very effectively. You could sort of do it, but it's not the same. So, especially for me when I was learning Spanish, I was lucky that my best friend was always in my Spanish classes, and it really helped because our teachers let us talk on the side as long as we were speaking in Spanish, so we might not have paid attention too much, but we were learning because we were forced to speak in Spanish and figure out ways around our words. So the teachers are combating this problem by using Flipgrid and Seesaw, which are 2 common apps used for e-learning. So Flipgrid I have used before in my college classes, and that's where you create a little video responding to something, and then your classmates respond to your videos, and you respond to classmate videos. It's not like a natural conversation, so it's not the best, but it's still somewhat of a conversation. And Seesaw, my clinical class uses a lot. I don't really get into Seesaw. I do more of like pull-out groups with them, but from what I've seen of it, I believe that it's kind of like the same idea as Flipgrid, just like a little bit more like understandable for elementary schoolers. So although this problem is one of those that kind of would be great to have more solutions to it besides these artificial conversations, but it's still something. The next problem is parents getting discouraged. So I found this quote in the article as well, and it says, for some parents, especially those with younger children, it's been hard to watch their children struggle at home with a new language because they don't understand. Linda Cato's son had tantrums every day when he started kindergarten at the Spanish-English dual immersion charter school in San Bernardino this fall. His family speaks English at home, and Cato's son doesn't yet understand Spanish. He couldn't really focus on the computer. That's hard in itself, Cato said. On top of it, he doesn't know what they're saying. That was really rough. We just kept falling further and further behind. After 3 weeks, Cato moved him to an English-only program, where she says he's doing much better. However, she plans to re-enroll her son in dual immersion school next year if instruction is once again in person. So here, the situation, the parent was able to see that students struggle, which when students are learning a new language, they are going to struggle, but this is something that parents don't always get to see because they're not in the classroom with them. This is something that the teacher sees and knows that is a normal part of learning a new language. But now, since the parents can see these meltdowns and frustrations, they are making the decision to move the children out of the dual immersion classrooms because they feel bad for their children and they don't want them to struggle in school. Also, it's hard enough focusing on a computer to focus on a new language, especially at a young age. So some teachers are combating this problem by reminding parents that students are always struggling when learning a new language. Sometimes they are pulling in teacher or parents that have had students go through the program and are much older and successful in both languages now and talk about how they struggled, and say that it's a normal thing, they're just able to see it then. And then also just reminding the parents the importance of being bilingual, kind of like taking them back to why did you put your student in this program to begin with? Do you really want that taken away from them? The next problem that the article highlights is that it's difficult to teach advanced vocabulary in this new format. So the quotes from the article says, teachers are also sharing video or audio of themselves or others reading books aloud or sing-alongs and chants so that even when children are not participating in live instruction, they can listen to the language and learn complex vocabulary, which is important for both students who are learning the language for the first time and those who speak language at home. So here, think about in a classroom how there's like clap chants and things like that to get students' attention, or there's little songs that classes have to help students students remember things. So this is like really common in in-person classrooms, but over Zoom, I can just imagine the nightmare trying to have all your students unmute at once and sing the song all together. Or if you're not going to have them unmute, how many of them are actually going to sing the song? So instead of having these normal ways, and also think about like the posters around the room that are bilingual, it's just so different being in a virtual classroom. So the teachers are trying to combat this with having videos of chants and read aloud. So the picture over here is actually an example of one of the chants that one of the teachers from the schools that they interviewed made, but it's like a virtual version with pictures and lyrics and everything. And then they're also sending home these projects. Like one of the examples in the article that they have is growing plants. So they're sending home like the seed and everything they need to grow a plant, but all the instructions are in the second language for the students. So instead of hearing those instructions like they would have in the classroom, they're reading them, and it's forcing them to understand what they're reading to be able to complete the project. And then finally, the last problem that the article highlights is more embarrassment. So this one especially came from the middle school students. So the quote that the article has is Rosario Araño, I don't know if I butchered that, but who teaches math and science in a Spanish-English immersion program at the Stephen M. White Middle School in Los Angeles Unified, said she's had to work really hard to get students to participate in class because they're more cautious about using Spanish in her online classroom than they were in person. It's been tough, Araño said. They're already having trouble with being in middle school and being more self-conscious, and now being online and having to do it in Spanish, that adds more weight on their back. So I even have been experiencing this year in my Spanish teaching classes. It's a lot more difficult for me to like take risks with words that I'm not sure on because there's not someone there to correct it right away. In my classes last year when they were in person, if I said a word that I wasn't too sure on, the teacher was right there to correct me and tell me the correct way or tell me if it was correct. So in these situations, it's difficult to take risks, especially on like a flip grid where everyone's going to watch it. If people know the correct word, it's a lot more embarrassing than to have everyone see you say the wrong thing. Whereas like in a classroom, lots of people are saying things and stepping out of their comfort zone. And then the added layer of being in middle school, everything's embarrassing. So it's definitely difficult for these dual language teachers. So what they're doing to combat this problem, especially this specific teacher, Rosario, before class starts and they really get into the content, she's doing relaxation exercises with the students. So like breathing exercises, different things like that, different meditation, mindfulness. And then she's asking fun questions in their second language before class. So in this case, it's Spanish. So the example that she gave in the article was she would ask, what's your favorite board game in Spanish, and have students respond in Spanish. That way it's kind of like a fun, non-science or math-based question in their second language to kind of get them in the groove of the language and start working in it before they just dive deep into academic language. So the takeaways that I really got from this article are that teachers need to work together. Many of these things, ideas teachers would not have come up with on their own, but they've come up with when working together. Teachers also need to be innovative. The old ways of teaching are definitely not going to always work in the online format, so it's very important to come up with some new ways and just really try different things out with their students. And then finally, family involvement is more important than ever. Families need to be non-judgmental to students learning new languages, try to be as helpful as possible even if they do only speak one language, and just really give their support to all the teachers.